With that, let's welcome in Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, chair of the House Judiciary Committee. Sir, welcome to National Report. This shutdown's having some real-world implications at this point. When do you think it might come to an end?
Well, that's a question for Chuck Schumer. I mean, look, he voted for the exact same thing that's in front of him today. He voted for it 6 months ago, but he can't vote for it today. All because, as Secretary Duffy just indicated, because he wants to give illegals access to taxpayer-funded health care. I mean, I don't get it. It defies common sense. It's almost like Chuck Schumer's having a debate with himself. The Chuck Schumer of 6 months ago who voted for the common sense thing, levels of spending that he agreed to. We're simply asking him to do the same thing now, keep the government open, and you can talk about various issues that are out there, but he refuses to do so. I think driven largely because the left, which now unfortunately controls their party, he's nervous about the left, in particular AOC. So that's the only one who can fix this is Chuck Schumer. Vote for what you voted for before, and we can make sure that we don't have these concerns that Secretary Duffy raised.
He seems like he's not ready to do that yet. The shutdown could have a potentially crippling effect financially on the nearly 800,000 workers who've been furloughed. Axios is here reporting that, according to the White House memo, those furloughed federal employees are not guaranteed back pay once the government reopens. There's that issue, Congressman, but there's also the issue, will they have a job? Is that something that Republicans are now looking at, maybe slashing some of this government waste?
If Chuck Schumer and the Democrats would do the right thing, the common sense thing, and vote for what they voted for just, again, 6 months ago, we wouldn't have to deal with this question. But I think, as the president said, there are certain people who are essential government employees who are definitely going to get paid one way or the other. I mean, like our military and other law enforcement, other essential personnel. Some of the people on furlough, the president said, maybe not. We'll have to see. I do know this. Look, I think most people understand, like, the truck drivers don't get paid unless they're driving the truck, and farmers don't get paid unless they're, farming their ground. I mean, you typically have to work in order to get paid. So, and I know in the past we've always covered that with people who are furloughed in previous government shutdowns. We'll just have to see. And the president, I think, raised that issue yesterday. But none of this is an issue if the Democrats will vote for what they've already voted for, instead of saying, no, we're going to bring up an issue that wasn't even talked about in last year's campaign. We're going to bring up an issue with Obamacare tax credits and health care for illegal aliens. That makes no sense, but that's the position they've unfortunately taken.
Well, just real follow-up on that. Why do you think they're picking this fight now and not just doing the continuing resolution and then talk about whether it be health care later?
Because the left controls their party. And the left is driving. Chuck Schumer took all kinds of abuse from the radical left 6 months ago when he did the common sense thing. Now he's nervous about that, and so it's all about the left. The left is the energy. The left has the control in the Democrat Party. Unfortunately, it's just the case. So they're actually saying we're shutting down the government for policies that weren't even talked about in last year's campaign and don't actually come into effect. The concern with the tax credit. The tax subsidy for Obamacare doesn't even come into effect until next year, but we're shutting down the government now. Right. Makes no sense, but that's their position.
Well, it's a vote against Trump, so that's what's motivating it. I mean,
exactly.
we've seen this before. They just can't find any sort of middle ground. I wanted to ask you, though, about what we saw today, and that was former FBI Director James Comey appear in a federal courthouse in Virginia. He pleaded not guilty to 2 charges of making a false statement and obstruction of a congressional proceeding. We'd been anticipating this, but as you know, the statute of limitations was on its way out. The Trump team was able to, or DOJ was able to get an indictment, right? But you're wondering how this will stick. And really, if the charges do have merit, what will you be watching for, Congressman? Where do you think this case goes?
I think it's important to remember this all started, this whole lawfare, this attack on this weaponization of government, this attack on President Trump, all started with Comey 10 years ago. So I think it's entirely appropriate that he's being held to account, particularly for false statements it looks like he made to the United States Congress. But remember, 10 years ago, we learned from the whistleblower who came to Tulsi Gabbard that they changed the intelligence community assessment. They changed the report back in December of 2016, after the election of President Trump's first term, before he was sworn in for his first term. In that December-January timeframe, they changed the report. And then Jim Comey goes up to Trump Tower, January 6, 2017, briefs the president on, gives the president-elect his intelligence briefing, talks to him about the dossier that Jim Comey already knew was a baloney false document, but talks to the president about it and then goes and leaks that to the press and thereby creates this whole predicate, this whole reason to have Bob Mueller, the special counsel appointed to undermine and sabotage President Trump's first term. It all began with Comey. And the fact that he misled Congress and said false statements to the Congress in the course of our investigation, he's now being held to account for that. I think it's entirely appropriate. And frankly, I don't think he's the only one. I think John Brennan looks like he misled Congress as well, and maybe said false things to Congress. I think we're going to look into that issue, and the Justice Department is looking into that also. But Jim Comey's the start of all this.
Yeah, we'll watch to see what comes from that. I want to get your thoughts on what's happening today. President Trump put this out on Truth Social earlier this morning. It reads simply, Chicago mayor, referring to Brandon Johnson, and of course, should be in jail for failing to protect ICE officers. Governor Pritzker also. I want to get your thoughts on him putting that out there. And I mean, is it even possible that criminal charges could be coming for those two?
Well, I do know what the mayor said, I think yesterday, the day before. Some of the crazy things he said just made no sense to me. The president is entirely within his in his power to have National Guard there to protect ICE agents, federal law enforcement agents who are doing their job and being attacked. When the president's defending and protecting federal buildings, federal property, and federal agents, law enforcement agents who are being impeded by these local authorities. I mean, they're actually, I think, kind of proud of the fact that they're impeding the efforts of federal law enforcement to do their job. I think the president's entirely within his rights and responsibilities to have the National Guard there to help protect these individuals. The things that both Governor Pritzker and the mayor are saying just make no sense to me. And as I said before, just sort of defy common sense.
Sure. Yeah. The decision to send in the National Guard, he's justifying it by pointing out these attacks on these ICE facilities, right? Where you've got agents that are just trying to carry out immigration law.
Agents. Yep.
Yeah.
But he mentioned in the Truth jail time, right? Which is where you know the line of questioning is going to go on this. We've got Mayor Johnson's response, so I'd like to show it to you now. He says this in a quote tweet: "This is not the first time Trump has tried to have a black man unjustly arrested. I'm not going anywhere." Congressman, I mean, do we see charges? Do we see anything, legally that would ultimately get there? Or is this just President Trump being sort of, long-winded with his voice?
Yeah, I leave that up to the Justice Department. If there's anything there. What I do know is some of the things he said make no sense. And what I do know is we've seen other officials impede the actions and law enforcement efforts of federal officials. We've seen that particularly up in Milwaukee several months ago, where the judge was letting the bad guy out the back door when the good guys were coming in the front door to arrest the bad guy, and that individual's been charged with the crime. I don't know that exists here. I'll leave that up to the Justice Department. What I do know is the president has every right to say when federal law enforcement agents are doing their job and they're being impeded and hindered from doing that, he has a right to make sure that they get to do their job and protect federal facilities as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. And we saw the Chicago police weren't there to back up ICE agents when they did need some help as well.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Congressman, thank you so much. Congressman Jim Jordan, we appreciate coming on our report.